Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please welcome Washington State co-chair AdamJRox.
I'm honored to be the Washington State co-chair of the Romney for President campaign.
Actually, no.
We're all ready for a new president. I tell you, I signed on this campaign. There's a number of reasons, probably many of the reasons why you're here today. I signed on because Mitt Romney, he's the only candidate in this race that isn't from Washington, D.C. Yeah, he's the only one with business experience, successful business experience. Right? He's the only one that actually has been an executive in the private sector and the public sector. He's the only one that has turnaround experience, turning around businesses and organizations like the Olympics and like the state of Massachusetts. He's the only one that's done that, and he's going to do that for America. You know, as we know, Mitt was in North Dakota yesterday, he was in Idaho, and then he was with us in Bellevue. And this man is going around the clock, and as we know, because we've been told time and time again that the current occupant of the Oval Office is the smartest man to ever occupy that office, right? We got to support Mitt because he has 57 states to go to, right? That's a lot of work. I mean, we got to find those other 7 states, but that's a lot of work. I tell you, but you know, think about it. I always like watching the president on TV. Why? Well, because, you know, every time he says, let me make this perfectly clear. When he's done talking, is it clear? No. But I always like watching because whatever he says, either he or his minions are doing exactly the opposite. Right? Oh, I don't want to take over the car companies. Now we have government motors. Oh, I don't want to take over the banks. Now what? Frank Off. Right? You think about it. Oh, only shovel-ready jobs. He vetoes Keystone Pipeline, right? All right. How about having a president that does what he says he's going to do? And that's Mitt Romney. You don't have to do our job. Our job is very, very important. It starts tomorrow. It starts tomorrow. We all have to go into your caucus tomorrow. We all have our sheet of paper. paper of how to do this. Now, I want each and every one of you to drag with you 5 to 10 of your friends to this caucus, right? And you all need to be delegates. You put your name on there to be delegates, because that's how the process works. You're gonna enjoy this. It's important though. This is incredibly important. It's up to us to do this. I just want to say thank you for being out here. Thank you for your help in this effort, because this matters. Mitt Romney understands why all our families came to America. You know, our families came to America because they believed that America was a better place, was going to be a better place for themselves, their children, and their grandchildren. This great land of opportunity, you can rise to any level if your talent, work ethic would take you, right? We have a president right now that really doesn't believe that. We have an opportunity to put a man in office that does. I get the honor of introducing a very dear friend and quite frankly a treasure for the Northwest. Someone that you listen to hopefully from noon to 3 on KTCA. Our good friend, Michael Bennett.
We have national media here. Can we send a message, please? There are Republicans and there are conservatives in Washington State. And there are lots of us, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, who are going to go out tomorrow to caucus for Mitt Romney. Very quickly, a lot of people ask me, first of all, how are you going to do that? I'm Jewish, proudly so, and I'm a Sabbath observer, right? I've got to say thank you to the Republican Party of Washington State. They've made special arrangements for those of us who want to caucus tomorrow, and we're all going to be out there, and we're going to be doing that, doing our patriotic duty by helping to choose the next president of the United States. The other thing that I've been asked is there was a piece in Politico last week which said that I was the only nationally syndicated talk show host who's publicly endorsed Mitt Romney. I want to say something. I'm not the only. I'm the first. And there are two reasons why supporting Mitt Romney is so important. So important and so crucial in the caucuses tomorrow. Number one, he is the only candidate who can do something very, very important. And that is beating Barack Obama. And not just beating him in a squeaker like Dino Rossi won a squeaker election. Beating him with a mandate, and a mandate for more jobs, and less debt, and smaller government. And there's something else that Mitt Romney can do, that no other candidate can do. He can unify the Republican Party, and he will. Right now, we are not divided. Republicans aren't divided on issues. This is a conservative party. All the candidates are conservative. They agree on the issues. These arguments are arguments about competence, about character, about leadership, about who can get the job done. Mitt can and Mitt will. So important to unify the Republican Party. Why is the Republican Party important? Because lots of people have complaints about the Republican Party. You hear that all the time. You hear that from everybody. And I would just paraphrase Churchill on this. The Republican Party is the worst political party in the history of the United States, except for all those other parties. We need a unified Republican Party. We need need a unified country, and we need a unified state. That's why I am so proud to introduce the person who's going to introduce Mitt Romney. And that is the chair of Mitt's campaign right here in the Evergreen State. She is an amazing rising star in the National Republican Party, and she's also the mother of a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old who arrived in order to answer all those people who say, Congress can't get anything done. Actually, Patty McMorris-Rogers produced something with her husband that actually make a contribution to our state and to the Congress of the United States. It's great to show Patty McMorris-Rogers that it's not just the east side of the mountains where there are Republicans and conservatives. We have them right here, and we're going to welcome
What a great crowd. We filled this room and they're still lined up as far as we can see. Thank you for coming out. How many of you believe this is the most important election of your lifetime? How many of you believe that working together we can elect Mitt Romney and we can restore America's greatness? This morning, I just want to take a moment and have us express our appreciation to the person who has stepped up to run for President of the United States, who's with us here today, Mitt Romney. And he's been on the campaign trail, and it is grueling day in and day out. He's been out there in front of the auto plants, and he's been getting up early to meet with farmers, and he's been shaking hands when the sun is shining and when it's snowing. And it's been 20 debates. There's been a lot of ups and downs, but aren't we grateful that this person, this tremendous leader, has stepped up to run for President of the United States? I'm not sure that I heard you. Would you help me back? Now there's something else you have to do to express your appreciation. Tomorrow, all of you, every one of you needs to bring every person that you know, your every adult, man, woman, and adult child that you know, and go to caucus tomorrow and express your support to Mitt Romney. That's what we have to do right here in Washington State. Now, I want to ask, how many of you have never been to a caucus before? Okay. This is your opportunity to cross that off your bucket list, okay? Well, I'm grateful, and I know all of you are, and we're excited to have with us today the person that's going to be the next President of the United States. He's proven himself as the person that can get the job done. We've seen it, we've heard about it, whether he was at Bain Capital, whether it was the Olympics, whether it was as governor of Massachusetts. He has the leadership, the steady hand that can get the job done. And through all the highs and lows of this campaign and the other candidates that have had their time in the sun and faded, this guy, Mitt Romney, stands tall today. He is the last and final front runner in this race. Our job is to get him across the finish line on Saturday, so please help me welcome our next Republican nominee, the next President of the United States, Mitt Romney.
her picture, you just don't know how lovely she is, inside and out. I know she's in Ohio today campaigning for me there because there are going to be a bunch of states that are going to make their mind up in the next couple of days. But you guys are first. And so your advice is and so I know most of you don't know how to get to a caucus site. I heard that a lot of hands went up. So, by the way, if you go to Romney WA, now you know what the WA stands for. RomneyWA.com. It will tell you, if you put your address in, where the closest caucus site is, and then you can show up, and it won't take a long time. It'll just make a big difference. So please make sure and go to the caucus site.
Actually, don't ask me nonsense yet.
I was talking about Ann. You've seen her picture. You probably don't know our story. She and I went to the same elementary school. Yeah. She was in second grade. I was in fourth. Peter, no attention. All right. Don't look down 2 grades. I'm sorry. Little kids. And, but then when she was a sophomore in high school, I began paying attention. And we went to a party. We came with different folks, but I noticed her in particular at that party. It was at a friend's house, and I went to the date she came with. And I said, look, I live closer to Ann than you do. Can I give her a ride home for you? And sure enough, I gave her a ride home and stole a kiss, and we've been going steady ever since. My son Matt, we have 5 boys, 5 daughters-in-law, 16 grandkids. My son Matt had sent me a link to a Neil Cavuto piece where he talked about Ann and showed videos of her and clips of her. She's the brains of the outfit, and she will make a great first lady. Congresswoman, my goodness, Congresswoman Morris Rogers, thank you for your remarks. Dino Rossi, Michael Hammond, the best on radio, TV, just some real heroes here, and I appreciate their support and their help. This is a critical time for the country. I'm sure you recognize that. The American people have long believed that the future would be brighter than the past. That's been the promise of America. The idea that if you work hard and you have the right kind of values, and if you're willing to get an education and sacrifice and follow your dreams, you can accomplish what your heart desires. This American dream that hard work and education and right values leads to security and prosperity, that's been with us all along. That's why people have come here. But now that promise is in question in a lot of homes across America. And as I look at the president's promises, over the last 3 years, he hasn't kept up with them. He said he would cut the budget deficit in half. He doubled it, all right? He doubled the deficit. He said he would cut taxes for middle-income Americans. He hasn't. With Obamacare, he's raised them. He also said that if we let him borrow $787 billion, he would hold unemployment below 8%. It hasn't been below 8% since. This guy is out of ideas. And he's out of excuses, and so in 2012 we're getting him out of office. The reason he's got to go is that he would take America in a place we wouldn't recognize. He wants to fundamentally transform America. I want to restore to America the principles that made us the strongest nation on earth. He's proposed a budget, you just saw it, with another $1 trillion deficit, 4 in a row, $1 trillion deficits, even as Europe is facing economic calamity, given their history of debt. He's willing to keep adding deficits and more debt. In his State of the Union address, he didn't even mention the debt or the deficits. Unthinkable. If I'm president of the United States, I will do a number of things, and you know where they lead. I'm going to take all of the programs of the federal government, and there are
hundreds, thousands of them. I'm going to go through one by one and say, is this program so essential, it's worth borrowing money from China to pay for it? If it doesn't pass that test, I'm not just going to slow down its rate of growth, I'm going to get rid of it. Federal spending, not just again slow it down. We're going to cut federal spending. We're going to cap federal spending as a percentage of our economy, and we're finally going to have a balanced budget in America. You have to do to get our economy going and get people back to work. Regulation, we've talked about it a lot. By the way, I'm going to put a hold on all the Obama-era regulations and get rid of them. Tax incentives for a moment. Sometimes I don't think Democrats recognize that there is a connection between the actions they take and what happens to real people. And so they plan on raising taxes, and when they do, they don't know that they're hurting working families and making it less likely for jobs to be created. So, for instance, I want to take our corporate tax rate, which is the highest in the world, at 35% and bring it down to 25%. So did you know that less than half of America's private sector workers work in corporations that are taxed like that? More than half of our workers work in businesses that are taxed at the individual level. They're taxed like people because they're small businesses typically. That's where most of our people work. And so what's the president want to do to that group? He wants to raise their tax rate from 35% to 40%. My view is this. I want to take that 35% tax rate on individuals, the marginal tax rate, cut it to 28%, and cut across the entire tax spectrum of our entire nation. Let's reduce taxes by 20%, and they're working on that. I'm going to make the investment tax credit permanent so we encourage R&D. I'm going to also make sure that we get rid of the alternative minimum tax, which is pressing down on middle-income families, and I'm going to kill the death tax. My objective is to simplify the code and to get people working again. I'm not sure what the president's objective is. I think in some respects he's trying to replace ambition with envy. But I want to get America working again. I'm going to get our tax rates down and do so to put people in America back to work in jobs with good incomes. More than other corners of the nation might. And that is the impact on jobs of trade. You sell a lot of products from Washington State to places around the world, from aircraft to software. And those opportunities to sell products to other nations create good jobs here in the United States, in Washington State. That's important to us. Other nations have figured out that trade is good for them and puts people to work. That's why China and the European nations, over the last 3 years, have negotiated some 44 new trade agreements between themselves and different countries. They've done that to try and enhance their economies. Do you know how many trade agreements this president has negotiated in the last 2 years? Zero. Now there's something else we've got to do differently about trade. When this president ran for office, he said he was concerned about how China was not playing fair, not playing by the rules. And he said he'd take them to the mat. Well, since then, they've walked all over him. All right? What China does is cheat when it comes to trade policies. And you can't blame them for trying. You have to blame us for letting it go on year after year. And so they do a number of things. One, they steal our intellectual property, our designs, our know-how, our patents, our brand names even. And that has an impact. You realize that software sales in China, 75% of them are just stolen property. It's not paid for. 75% to the cost of this country of about $8 billion a year in lost sales. And then, by the way, Boeing, get ready. All right, China wants to start making big aircraft, commercial aircraft. Guess whose designs and technology they're going to try and steal? They hacked into the computers in corporate America and the computers in our governmental sites. 2 years they were looking at the plans for the F-35. This is what they'll do. And by the way, in addition to all those things, they also artificially hold down the value of their currency. Why? So their prices are artificially low, so they can take jobs and get business. By the way, what does a country do after they've wiped out their competitors? Well, then, of course, they rise their value back up. So, day one, I'm going to label China a currency manipulator and apply tariffs where they're stealing jobs. Between countries that agree to protect intellectual property, agree not to manipulate their currency, agree to play by the true rules of free trade. We're going to open up more markets for American goods. I like free enterprise. I like the fact that the people can get good jobs working in different kinds of businesses. I wonder, though, as I watch the president practice something I'll call crony capitalism, what he's thinking of. Crony capitalism is where he takes your money to give it to his cronies. It's like his idea for green jobs. The green goes to the people who gave him the money. And so my view is, look, we got to stop this idea of giving money to people like Solyndra and Inter1 and Fisker and Tesla. All, by the way, happen to be Democrat fundraising entities within those enterprises. And by the way, do you know what happens? He says he's trying to encourage solar technology. I like solar technology. Probably you'll have a hard time here in Washington State, but that's all. I like solar technology. And I want to see new technologies developed. And basic science is a place where government can wisely invest. But giving money to companies like this does the opposite. It hurts solar technology. Let me tell you why. My guess is that across this country, there are hundreds of entrepreneurs with ideas for solar technology, solar companies. And they were out going to various venture capitalists and maybe their parents and friends asking for contributions, investments to get their business going. When the government picks one, Solyndra, and gives it $500 million, guess what happens to all those other folks out there? They can't get capital anymore because they see the government has chosen its favorite. The right course for America is not to have the government play that it's the market. Instead, return to the people and to free enterprise. Distinct difference between where we'll go if I'm president versus where we'll go if we are. He has a view that America will have a stronger foreign policy if they just get to know him better. It's the idea of a foreign policy by friendship. And you know, I like friends, but I recognize there's some people in the world that don't like us very much, and it's not a matter of sitting down and getting to know them. It's instead a matter of showing that America has strength and resolve. I agree with going back to the days of Harry Truman. He said America must stand by our values and we must be strong. And our strength is not only our own military and our economy, but also our willingness to link arms with our allies. Those are the policies of strength that I believe are enduring. ships, to slow down the purchases of aircraft, to reduce our active duty personnel by 50 to 100,000. And you've seen that he's also cutting benefits for our veterans. That's the course he's taking. I think the strong America is the best ally peace has ever known. In America today, in our Navy, than any time since 1917. Rather than cut the purchases of ships, I will take it up. We'll go from 9 until 15 ships a year. Aircraft. Our aircraft and our Air Force are older and fewer than any time since 1947. I'll increase the purchases of aircraft. And rather than cut our armed services by 50 to 100,000, I will increase them by 100,000. We'll keep America strong. Is a choice for America as to what kind of a country we want. Barack Obama is turning us into a European welfare type society where people feel they're entitled to what their neighbor has. My view is we should remain an opportunity society, that the principles upon which we are founded are the principles of the future. My blueprint is the Constitution, and the inspiration for this nation is the Declaration of Independence. When the founders of this country wrote the Declaration of Independence, they chose their words with care. They said we were endowed by our Creator with our rights. Not by the king, not by the state, but by our Creator. They are ours, they're not the government's. And among those rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In America, we're free to pursue happiness in the way we choose. We decide what career we want. We decide how much education we want. We decide what kind of health care we want. We make decisions ourselves for our own future. I don't want the government in my life directing my course. I don't want the circumstance of birth limiting what I can achieve. This is a land of freedom. I don't think our president understands the power of free people pursuing their own ideas. If someone asks you, why are Americans so much better off than Europeans, for instance? Our income per person is about 50% higher than the average European. And yet, we're humans. We all share the same human DNA around the world. Why are we so successful? It's because of those freedoms. It's because of those values. It's because of those pioneers who are seeking those freedoms. That's who we are. We face extraordinary challenges. Massive debt we face, huge deficits every year, seemingly intractable spending programs that have to be cut back. We face Iran about to become nuclear. We face other parts of the world in turmoil. The Arab Spring has become the Arab winter. We face real challenges. And some people get discouraged. I don't. I'm excited because I see the power and conviction, the patriotism and innovation of the American people. I just think we have to have leaders that will tell us the truth. And we're going to live with integrity. I'm going to embarrass you in the White House. I'll tell you one other thing. If I'm lucky enough to be in the White House, I won't be playing 90 rounds of golf on my first term. Less debt and smaller government. That's what my theme is going to be. And I want to tell you this. I will tell the truth. I will live with integrity. I'll draw on the innovation and capacity of the American people to dream, to build, to create, to restore the American promise, knowing that in this land, if you're willing to get an education, if you have the right values in your home, and if you're willing to work hard, that your future can be secure and prosperous. That's the America I promise. That's the America I love. That's where the work.
Mr. Romney, my wife says if you want a complete ticket, put Santorum on it, please.
We're gonna die. Thank you. Hi there. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much. Nice to meet you. Where more? Thank you. Hi there.
I heard you.
Hi, how are you?
They shook my hand. Can I shake your hand?
This is AdamJRox.